Hi, it's Jane here with Rustic Glitter, and today I'm going to show you how to make tassels. And these tassels can be used for your beaded garland. You can hang them on your tree, add them to presents, so many different things that you can do with tassels. And I'm going to show you how to use our tassel tool and make it easier for you, especially if you have to make a bunch of them for gifts or for your business. I'm going to show you one of our most popular tools that we have. So let's get to it. All right, so this is our tassel tool. You'll need the tool, some tape, paper tape is best, scissors, you'll need some jute. I'm going to use a thicker one today. And if you want to add in some ribbons, then you would get some ribbons. Now you can do this if you don't want to use jute. You can do this with the thin ribbons, just with ribbon. You can do it with yarn. You can use this technique to make a tassel with any material that you typically would use to make tassels. So I just have jute right here, and that's what I'm going to use. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I need to make the top piece that ties it together. Now, if I am doing a beaded garland, then this piece is usually about, I want to say like 40, maybe 42 inches long. But for the tutorial here, it's just going to be a short little piece so I don't waste my jute. But typically, this is where I would string the beads on after. So if you're using, doing a beaded garland, then you want to use a longer piece that you're going to string it on. So just remember that. All right, so I'm just going to cut a short little piece here for display purposes. And excuse me, at the very top of your tassel tool is where you're going to tape this. So you're going to tape it on the side. You don't want it to come into this area. So we're just going to add a little bit of tape. And like I said, paper tape that you can tear easily is going to be best. All right, then I'm gonna get another piece of tape. And you wanna align this along the top. So you don't want it on any other sides, you just want it to stay along that top right there. And I'm gonna tape it over on this side. It doesn't have to be super tight, just to hold it in place. So make sure nothing is covering this area right here, okay? So we have tape here, and you have your long jute here. Again, this is short for the tutorial. If you're gonna be tying this onto something, remember how much you need, because this is what you're tying it onto. Either adding strings to it, or you're gonna tie it onto a longer garland or on your tree. So just remember how you're doing this, what you need. All right, now we're going to start wrapping our tassel. And a lot of people will do like wrap it around their hands, or you'll find something and wrap it around and use that. And that's fine too. But this tassel this tool makes it really easy that you don't have to slide it off and then tie it. And if it gets messed up, so you can do everything here, slide it off, cut it, and you're done. So depending on the jute or the string or the ribbon, whatever you're using, depending on the thickness and how thick you want and full you want your tassel to be is going to depend on how long you need this to be. So typically for our beaded garland craft kits, we do about 180 inches of jute for the tassel part. But I'm just gonna wrap it today because it's still on my spool. So I'm just going to wrap it to show you, okay? So keep this out of the way. And I'm gonna do this backwards, so it's gonna be, just bear with me. All right, so you're gonna hold it down at the bottom. It's okay if it hangs a little bit lower, because at the end you are gonna cut it and you're gonna trim it. But you don't want it too long because you don't want to waste your material. So I like to hold it towards the bottom, and then you just start wrapping. And I tend to wrap crisscross. Don't ask me why, but that's just kind of the way I do it. And let's see, we'll do, I'll do about like 15 times because this is a little bit thicker of a jute. So I'm about halfway, and I'm gonna add in some ribbon. So let's see, I have a ribbon here, and I'm just going to make sure it's gonna go all the way, yep. All right, so then I'm going to lay that in, and you can add more, you can add 2 different kinds, you can mix and match, but you kind of want to do that halfway so that it gets mixed in. So now I'm just going to continue wrapping. All right. And you want to pull tight. Okay, so I'm good with that. This is thicker jute than what I normally use, so this was about 13 wraps. Okay, so now, see, this is why you don't want this middle part to get in the way with anything, so that you can put your hands in here. And now the next step is we're going to tie it off in the top. So squish it together as much as you can. Then you're gonna take the side piece here and just rip it. That's why paper tape is good. So if as you're wrapping, it covers the tape, you don't have to worry about it getting in the way. And then I'm just gonna rip this side. And now, if you need to adjust it to make one side longer than the other so you can tie it, you can pull it. You pull the other side, however you need to do. And I'm going to tie it. I'm going to double knot it. And I'm gonna pull really tight. So now I am tied at the top. I have my tassel piece here, and I still have my long piece. Now, depending on what you're doing with this, just remember how much you need on the other end. If you're gonna tie this off, then you probably want equal parts on each end if you're gonna go tie it to something. If you're gonna do the beaded garland, typically what I do is I'll glue these 2 pieces together and make it really flat, and then I'll slide my beaded garland on. So typically I don't need this to be too long. So just keep that in mind depending on what you're doing with your tassel. Okay, now I'm gonna move that out of the way. If you need to tape it back down, you can peel that tape off just to keep it out of your way. You can do that like that, okay? So now here is our next part, is we are going to do the middle part, and we're going to wrap it. Now, you can easily cut some jute off, wrap it, and then tie it like you did at the top. But I like my wrap to be seamless. So if you see when I turn it, there are no knots, there's no ties, there's no anything. It looks nice and smooth. So I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, so let me get close here. Okay, so we're gonna use the piece that is hanging out, and you want to push it up and make a loop. So you see, you have a loop here. This is the tassel that's coming around. It's still attached to my spool so that I can cut it off and when I'm done and not waste. All right, so push it up, and we're gonna hold that down. And then down here, we need to make a loop as well. Okay, so we have a loop here and a loop right here. Do we see that? So down here, all I did was take this and just make a loop. Now this is coming towards the middle part. Got that? All right, you need to always make sure that these loops are always there until the end. So I'm gonna hold this down, hold my loops down like this. I think it's easier maybe if I show you like this way. Okay, so we got the 2 loops, and I'm just going to start wrapping. And the first few wraps, you'll have to hold down those loops so that they stay in place. Okay. And typically, hold on a second. Typically what I do is about 24-inch wrap. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I am gonna cut that off. Just because it'll be easier to show y'all. So we have our long piece. So once you're done wrapping, you can go ahead and cut. Like I said, I did about 24 inches. Again, that's gonna depend on how thick you want your wrap. So it might take a few times for you to make a few, and I always say write your notes down, the material you used, how many inches you used, even how many wraps you did. So that way, when you go back, you can just repeat that process. So the first few times, you gotta figure out what the look is that you want. All right, so here we go. So loop and loop, okay? These two loops. Then I'm just going to start wrapping. And when you wrap this piece, you want to leave a little space here so that you can wrap this ribbon around. And as you're wrapping, not the ribbon, the jute. As you're wrapping, you want to pull tight. You want that to be a tight wrap. So I've already gotten my two wraps in there, and so now I don't have to worry about holding my loops because now they're secure. So you see, you still want those loops. Okay, and I'm just wrapping. I'm wrapping close to the top here because I want my wrap to be as closer to the top than towards the bottom. And I'm pulling really tight. And having this tool just makes it easy to get that really tight pull on there. Okay, so when you're done, you want to finish on the same side as your loops, and you want enough, whatever you're using, so my jute, to be as long as your tassel is going to be. So when I'm done, this is going to be long and I'm going to have to trim it, but that's fine. Okay, so now we're done. All right, so we have our top loop and our bottom loop. And remember, this is all off of one piece, okay? And this is how we're going to get that seamless look. All right, now I'm going to take the end of my jute and I'm going to push it through this bottom loop, okay? And hold it there. Now you're going to pull the top. Now watch. It's going to pull this and make a knot. And I'm going to pull it tight and it's going under my wrap. Do you see that? And I'm pulling really tight. Now it's gone. I have a seamless wrap. You cannot see that knot. It's underneath. Now, you're probably wondering, well, now you have this loop, okay? So now you have to push it back the other way. So you gotta bring it over so the front side is nice and smooth. So when you push this a little bit, you can see which ribbon, which string it is. So I see that it's right here because it's moving. So I'm going to carefully pull it this way. Okay, so now it's nice and smooth. Now I have it here. So once I'm going to take this off and once I cut it, I can see which one this is and pull it down and then trim it. Okay, so let's go ahead and take our tassel off and we just slide it off. So this is what you're left with. If you want to bring your wrap up just a little bit, you can wiggle it, but you don't want to do too much because you don't want it to come off, right? All right. So now I'm going to cut the bottom part. And you just take your scissors in here, pull tight, and voila. All right, so now what are we gonna do about this loop? Again, I'm going to pull it carefully to see which one it's moving, and I find it, and then you're gonna, sorry, my hands were in the way. Okay, So you're gonna do the same technique. You're just gonna pull it slowly. See, I see it's this one right here. And then you're going to pull it down. But you wanna go slow because you don't want this to get pulled down. So just pull it slow until it lays flat. There we go. Now, remember you have your long piece, so keep that out of the way when you're trimming. So I have a few long pieces here, and I am just going to trim it. Like so. Now this thicker jute I don't use too often for this because it kind of does its own little shape. I prefer the thinner one because it lays a little bit flatter, but if you wanted to use the thicker one, you could probably even put some heat to it or use a little iron to flatten it out. Unless you like that look, then that's fine too, but there you go. And I have my ribbon mixed in. And like I said, you just play with it until you find the measurements that work for you as far as how many loops you want to do, the thickness of the ribbon, of the jute, whatever you want to do, the yarn. So I have a few here that I've mixed in. This with the black and white check is really popular, and the red one too. So, but as you can see, the thinner of the jute lays a little bit better than this one. So that's how you use our tassel tool. So you can order this on our website, rusticglitter.com. It is very popular. We are constantly cutting these because they are constantly selling. So we are shipping these like every day. So you can grab it there on Rustic Glitter. Thank you. See you next time.